Speaking of applicants, one of the things you and I talked about in leading up to this call are some of the challenges related to the volume of applications being received for certain positions, whether it's easy apply or the rise of AI generated resumes where it makes it easier for candidates to personalize their resume and to apply to more roles in a more efficient manner. Those, first of all, those are all good things on their own. But I think what's happened is together, it's created these converging forces that are making hiring more challenging, especially at the front end of the process. Can you tell me what you guys are facing and what you're seeing in the market?
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. I'm finding, as someone in the talent space for the last 15 or so years, I'm actually finding that we get fewer applications that are just totally irrelevant. Like, how did you even find this? And I think part of that is because things like LinkedIn and Indeed and all the third-party sites are getting smarter in what they present to candidates. So that's a good thing. But to your point of AI-generated resumes, easy apply, et cetera, I think one thing that maybe is not a common answer, but you just get candidates that don't really know anything about your company. So if they're qualified and they applied, that's great. But then you hop on the phone and it's clear they've applied to so many places that they have no idea who you are. And that's not always a bad thing. It just changes the discussion a little bit, especially if they're good and they're qualified. You want to keep talking to them. But yeah, I think that's actually something that I've noticed. And again, in professional services, it lends itself to that because you've got companies that are seemingly doing similar things. So people might be applying to all of them, but not actually doing real research on what differentiates each one. And so when you say, hey, why do you want to work here? It tends to be pretty vague.
Sounds like you get these applications, you get to your first screening step, whatever it is in that hiring process for that role, and you end up with candidates that are almost at like way different levels of engagement. You have people that have done a lot of research and are really bought into your process. And it's probably a lot easier to move them quickly through that process. Whereas you get others that you're still advancing to that same screening step, but they're so much less engaged because they don't know anything. It's almost like there's an additional step for you now in between where you have to, I want to say sell them on the company and sell them on the position, but more give them the information so they can make a decision if they want to still buy in to that next step.
It's a really good point and spot on. The job market hasn't been super great the last year or so. Oftentimes the candidates are still very interested in moving forward, even if they haven't done their research. But I want them to be more prepared before I'm putting them in front of more colleagues, or especially senior colleagues, because I don't want them to crash and burn if I think they're talented and maybe just haven't done enough research. So to your point, it is usually, okay, we don't have enough time in this 30-minute conversation for me to tell you everything that you should know going into a next conversation. So let's chat again next week. I'm going to, ask that you review these, 3 things on our website, come back to me with questions, and then you can usually make a more informed decision from there about next steps for them. Also, they can make a better, decision for themselves, whether or not they want to move forward. But yeah, it's a really good point that it does ultimately create more work for both the candidate and for us post-screen.